The following podcast was brought to you by the members of the Casino Skunk Secret Society. For just $1 a month, you can unlock every audio and video episode available instantly. And don't worry about any commitments. You can quit at any time. So for just $1, you can download every single episode and then bounce out. Just head to patreon.com/casinoskunk. Welcome to the Casino Skunk Secret Society. I am Ralph. This is episode 62, I believe, and I am covering Chapter 3 of The Mandalorian, titled The Sin. And joining me is Matthew Eickhoff from Owen and Beru BBQ, which you can hear on the Jay and Jack Network. And then I guess tomorrow you'll be able to hear me, or soon be able to hear me talk about this episode in depth with those guys as well. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Can I call you Matt?
Yeah, Matt is fine. Yeah, Matt's fine. I think it's kind of synonymous. Like if somebody's named Jonathan, right? Like everybody calls him John, right?
Yeah, but I feel like some people are particular.
Oh,
and I don't want to offend anybody.
Well, it is an honor to be on the show. I really enjoy listening to your show, especially the lightsabers and light motifs. I love that.
Right.
And just hearing you cover The Mandalorian as I also cover it. I mean, what a great time to be a podcaster, because this is not a binge show. We get these little morsels and we get to just kind of savor it, right?
Digest it.
Yeah.
What's funny is I cast out a pretty big net when it came to doing these shows, and I had the schedule set in place in advance, and you got episode 3, which we're talking about now, which happens to be, I think in most people's opinion, the best episode so far in the series.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I would agree with that. I love how the first episode sets the tone. Right? And that second episode was definitely kind of like okay, we got more. That's good. It's flowing.
Yeah.
But this was
last week. I got a diehard Star Wars fan, Eddie, and we had nothing to talk about as far as the episode was concerned, because it was just 3 kind of major action chunks, and then that was it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no new characters. There's Jawas, and then we had the Ugnaught Nulty, and then the Mandalorian. Oh, and I guess Baby Yoda.
Well,
but
and in this episode we don't get that whole montage, right?
Oh, the 5-second putting his thing back together montage.
Mm-hmm. If it took me that long,
I feel like that montage, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Because, we need to know that he took time to build the ship, and we're not going to sit there and watch him build the ship episode. So you have to do a montage, but then the montage is kind of short, so it's it must have been really quick. I don't know. It was just to show us that he built it, or he fixed it. I don't know.
If I put my truck back together, I would not drive it down the interstate, nor take it into space. So that is my thought on that.
I think to make the montage feel like it took more time, maybe have some. This is a problem with him having a helmet. I was going to say, intercut him taking a break and eating or sleeping, but I don't know if we could see him eating. But you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like days have passed, because you don't see days passing.
And if you're building something, you're definitely throwing down some brews at some point.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But anyway,
he's got to use a straw.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that. How does he eat? Does that little visor flip up and he just has a little hole right there that he can shove food?
It's got to be maybe that's part of his suit upgrade.
Suit upgrade.
Yeah, suit upgrade. We see that in this episode.
Yeah. And so much good stuff. I
feel like it's more than just armor, because in the last episode we saw that there was some sort of electronics inside of his armor,
right,
when it kind of split open.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got this armor upgrade in this episode, not only is it just the armor being put on top, but he also now has a heads-up display in his helmet, which I believe so far he's only been using his scope off of his rifle to see like long distances and stuff. I don't know if we've seen like a heads-up display. So the armor is more than just like a physical upgrade. It's also like technologically upgrading.
Well, you get those the birds.
The whistling.
Yeah, the whistle.
I know I wrote it down somewhere. The whistling birds.
Yeah,
Is that just what it was called? Yeah,
I think so. And so I was kind of surprised that Beskar could also be used as this technological kind of weapon too. I mean, it definitely it's more to it than just armor. So, and I'm glad you kind of picked up on that.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of like a like adamantium. It definitely can stop blaster bolts, which we find out later on. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen the blaster bolts ricocheting off of his one shoulder. I think in the first episode, IG-88 shoots him in that shoulder, and it deflects it. So it's a strong material, and he seemed to use the. He had a choice to have his use the extra sort of the, I don't know,
the Beskar,
what she called it, using the like leftovers essentially to make a signet,
right,
which I'm assuming is the symbol, like like Boba Fett has a symbol of the mythosaur
right
on his arm. Yeah, and so he was talking about the Mudhorn, and it sounded like he was going to get that symbol cast in the extra Beskar.
Right.
So, but he said he didn't defeat the enemy by himself.
I like that he was very honest, and every time we've seen things within the I don't want to call it a coven, but it's not. He mentions it at some point, right? Like we have to move the
I don't know, tribe.
Yeah, that works. Yeah. But every time we see him in that area, I really enjoy those moments because we get a little bit more of Mandalorian backstory, not just his own, but just like the community and how there is a definite pecking order between them, and this one specifically, we learned that they don't come above ground, like except one at a time. So it's like, if one of them goes out, it's like, oh, I gotta wait for him to come back.
Maybe. I don't know. It's strange. And are they all bounty hunters? They're just warriors, right?
Right. Well, some of them have to be picking up some other, but they would all be fighting for the same stuff. So I don't know. Maybe they're mercenaries on another level. Maybe they're doing other jobs.
Werner Herzog said that Beskar's hard to find, but not as hard to find as a Mandalorian.
Right. Yeah.
So they're definitely in hiding.
Oh my gosh, that line was so good. I loved that. I really did, like that whole scene where he's talking, he's giving him this left-handed compliment because he's really mad that he even asked what they're going to do with the kid. So it just the delivery and we kind of were talking just very, very briefly before we recorded, but that safe, right?
Right.
The
Will the ice cream maker.
Mm-hmm. The ice cream maker.
Now here's what's funny about that is I never saw it when I was a kid, when I was like a younger kid, because I had the VHS pan and scan.
Oh, sure.
Of the original trilogy. In '91, they released the letterbox version, and that's when I learned what letterbox was. I was at a store called The Good Guys, here in Southern California, and they were in their sound room where they had where you could test all the different speaker systems. They're playing. They asked what we wanted to watch, and then I said, "Oh, you have Star Wars. Put that on." So they put in Star Wars, and it was in letterbox, and I was like, "What is that? How come the black bars are like that?" But then, as soon as it panned down on Tatooine from episode 4, I can see an extra moon.
Oh, right.
There's like a third moon in the shot, and I'm like, I understand what letterbox is. So I ended up getting that set when I was a kid. I was 91. I must have been 13 or 14. And when I watched Empire, that's the first time I saw Wilbur Hood carrying the ice cream maker. And the reason I noticed is because we had that same ice cream maker.
Oh.
So I like paused it and I showed my dad and my mom. I'm like, look at this guy. He's got an ice cream maker. And we all laughed and it was hilarious. And then now years later, everybody knows about Wilbur Hood and the ice cream maker. And what's kind of cool is that Jon Favreau kind of took that cheap prop and turned it into like kind of a cool, like actual like Star Wars prop. It gave it meaning.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just like with the holiday special, I mean, he's been weaving these little kind of nuggets of like Star Wars lore that especially us old school guys we really love, you know, and I feel like he's legitimizing those moments. You know, some of the backstory on Wilbur Hood is that he was someone that was working for the rebellion, and he was actually taking out some type of secret data so that the Empire wouldn't get it. You know, right. I mean, there was like, I mean, in old school Star Wars, it's like every person in the background has a story, and
right.
So I think it's funny though. You know, it's like after a new episode drops, and I'm sure you're used to this, you're just kind of bombarded by all these other websites that are like, did you see the Easter eggs?
I haven't looked at them yet.
Yeah.
I think that I feel like I've been a Star Wars fan. I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life. It came out 3 months after I was born. I've always loved it. And for the longest time, for the first, 26 years of my life, 25 years of my life, that's all I had was the original trilogy, and I watched them to death. And what's funny about this series is all the Star Wars references are pretty much original trilogy, so I'm able to spot them a lot easier. There is one thing I did see on a Facebook group where when the Mandalorian walks through town, or walks through an archway, there is a pole leaning up against the wall.
Yes.
That is the pole from the trash compactor.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was probably the one buried Easter egg that I was like, I think I was reading and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely missed that one. But and on rewatches I saw it. Yeah.
But like, speaking of the trash compactor, one of my favorite things is at Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. Every single trash can has a series of numbers on them, and it's 326 3827, and I recognize that as the number of the trash compactor number from
A New Hope.
A New Hope.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the kind of stuff I live for, is original trilogy Easter eggs. Like, I know people got all excited because there was like a battle droid in the background of the Rise of Skywalker trailer, and that's cool and all, but I'm like, give me some original trilogy stuff in there. Like, I'm more excited about the Tantive 5 and the Y-wing more than anything else. So give me that stuff. But speaking of battle droids, we get our first good look at the super battle droids in his flashbacks.
That is true. Yeah. And I like how they've kind of set this up, you know, obviously with the first episode and this one. It was funny too, because the first time I watched this episode, as soon as he got the Beskar and they're making the armor, I thought, okay, here we go. Time for a little flashback time. And I honestly don't mind the story having this little trope, or this little, you know, like, this is the rules of the Mandalorian. When he gets his armor, he's going to get a flashback, and this is this little story within the story. This is his flashback moment.
It's kind of nice because I don't believe he wasn't born a Mandalorian. He's a foundling.
Mm-hmm.
And we know he has an affinity towards the foundlings, clearly, because he's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like almost like Darth Vader being more machine now than man. The more Mandalorian armor he gets, the more he becomes a Mandalorian, and it's almost like he's trying to remember where his origins are, so that he doesn't lose sense of, his human side.
Yeah. No, I
So
yeah, no, I could totally see that. I associated it, and partially this is because I've been podcasting about Watchmen with Jay and Jack, and
I'm like 3 episodes behind.
This isn't spoilery in any way, but there is an episode where they mention masks equal trauma, and when I heard that, I associated that directly with the Mandalorian and this idea that as he gets armor, every time he gets armor, it has to deal with his trauma from his past. So, so yeah, I love seeing the battle droid. Obviously, puts it in a time frame. We know that he was born in that Civil War, and leaves us in that little cliffhanger there, where it's like, what's going to happen next?
Right, and then he goes down into the like kind of storm shelter, and his parents clearly get exploded, or we assume that they did, and then someone comes and opens the door. Kind of looks like Boushh, Princess Leia's sort of disguise in Jabba's palace. It's got kind of a similar look. I don't recognize the mask. It didn't look Mandalorian to me. It looked a little bit different.
Okay. I'm trying to remember which part you're talking about. So
when in the flashback,
okay,
the parents of the Mandalorian stick him in like a storm cellar, like the 2 double doors,
right? And
then he's down there. There's an explosion. Then it's quiet. Then the doors open and there's like a silhouette.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. It just
did I not see it right?
I just remember the storm doors open, and then there's the battle droid. So
is it a battle droid?
Yeah, the battle droid is there like after the I'm gonna watch it right now because I have it on in the background.
Yeah, watch it right now.
So
I swear it opens back up and it looks like I see a silhouette.
Okay.
And you can't screenshot these, can you? They have like some sort of copyright protect on it, right?
I think so, but perhaps.
I don't know how to get screenshots. and it drives me nuts because like I want like cool album art for when I release it on on Instagram and stuff.
I don't see the Boushh figure there, but
what am I? Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Okay,
Hold on, I'm gonna have to look at it.
Okay, I did think about that storm cellar aspect and the fact that closes in on him almost like a mask, and the fact that. Right. Here we haven't even seen who he is, and he's been protected in this shell, and then I think about that relating to the armor. So I like the metaphors that kind of go with those things coming together. One other kind of meta thing, or I don't know what we want to call it, but I always look for color and how it connects throughout the story as a storytelling device. And one color that comes up is this mustard yellow. It's on his ship.
Okay.
It's in the egg that carries Baby Yoda, and it's on his gloves. It's on his the very tips of his gloves.
Yeah.
I've watched this episode way too many times, but that egg, I swear, I've watched just that little floating egg crib a couple times. It is distinctly this mustard yellow. But when he goes back to find it in the trash, it is red. It is straight up rust-colored red. And I was like, why would it change color? I kid you not. You watch the episode again. You'll notice that the color of that little egg changes from mustard yellow to red. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was looking at it like it's kind of in shadow. Yeah, it's a fucking battle droid. I don't know what I saw. I don't know. I've got issues. I need to watch this with my glasses, but okay, cool. Yeah, it's a super battle droid. I did not notice the change of colors. It's funny that you mentioned that the inside of the egg is yellow because,
right,
yolk.
Yep.
But is it so? What are your thoughts on that?
I
Is it a production thing or is it in-universe thing? Do they have multiples of these things?
I thought it was honestly like a filter or a camera kind of thing. Like they
Okay.
like perhaps it is actually legitimately mustard yellow because most shots are mustard yellow. But then this trash scene where he goes back to see it in red, I was like, well, maybe it was dimly lit or whatever, and it's just
Yeah.
a film camera thing. I
It's like kind of what he sees.
maybe it is what he sees. I mean, like the
Yeah.
idea of it being red equaling death, and the first time watching this
Right.
through, I mean, when I saw it, I was about ready to flip out like the Mandalorian. I was like, oh hell no. You do not
Yeah.
put Baby Yoda's crib in the trash. Like,
Right. Because that means where's Baby Yoda?
where's he
And
gonna sleep?
yeah,
Because
right. Exactly.
clearly you have no other intention of him sleeping again. Like,
Yeah.
so
We find out where he is.
we do.
He's with Dr. Pershing.
Pershing?
Is that what it
I
is?
think it's Pershing.
And he's doing experiments with like one of the interrogator droids.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that this is the only time that we get a actual reference to what gender Baby Yoda might be. Up to this point, I've kind of been on the fence, like boy, girl.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Dr. Pershing specifically says, "I protected him. Please
Right.
don't hurt him," and he refers to him as a male. So
And he would know.
I would assume so, as a doctor
Yeah.
who's doing these experiments.
Yeah.
So
And we get to hear we get to overhear a conversation between him and Werner Herzog.
yes,
And it's interesting that these two aren't the only ones interested in this baby, because Pershing says he demands that he be brought back alive.
right, yeah,
So who's he?
the Emperor.
I don't know. Is he on Camino? Is he setting stuff up? Is it a clone of the Emperor on Camino? Is that what we're getting our Rise of Skywalker Emperor from?
Or is okay, so let's say this is just me spitballing here. The Emperor somehow barely survives. He's like just like whatever, fading in and out of the Force. I don't know what. But he's taking these Force sensitive kids and he's using their midi-chlorians to bring himself back to life.
Got it. All right. That works for me.
Ah,
I'm thinking something like that could happen in Rise of Skywalker, but with Anakin. And he's the Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
He's the Skywalker that's rising. Yeah, I'm interested to see if these are tied in at all. I can't imagine them doing that. Because like with the Marvel movies, they don't really bring up what happens on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
right.
Like Coulson hasn't shown up in any of the Marvel movies.
Right.
So I don't know if they would tie the show so closely to the movie.
I don't think so either. I think it would be probably and even with like let's say Rebels, which
Yeah.
when watching Rebels and they would release the different movies or TV, the different movies while Rebels was on the air, they would basically only take elements like, oh, now we have Death Troopers, so we're going to put those in every like shot we can get, and they would allude to certain things that they knew were going to happen in the future, but they also had a set forward and backward in time.
Yeah.
With this, and that's probably my one complaint about Disney Star Wars is that it's been so veiled in secrecy and so like close to the chest that we can't get these other stories, because I personally would love from The Last Jedi to The Rise of Skywalker for there to be 3 years in which we could see Leia in comics with Rey doing cool shit,
Right.
But just the way they've rolled it out, they've just been so. I mean, think about like A New Hope to Empire. Those 3 years, if you were reading the Marvel comics or reading any of the novels that came out, at least you got something. You were like, cool.
Yeah.
Like we haven't.
Right.
All of that adventure stuff has been locked down. Like, so It's just my one kind of like, oh, I can't wait till this veil of secrecy is opened and we can start filling in the time gaps between Jedi and Force Awakens, which,
Right.
For the most part, I guess the Mandalorian will do that, and I agree with you. I don't know how closely they would actually tie the two together, but I did think of Midi-chlorians when they started talking about extracting something from this.
Right.
Right? Like, what else?
I mean, obviously, yeah, that sounds like... But the fact that this guy wants it alive means they're after more than just the midi-chlorians.
Right. Well, I mean...
It could just be a steady supply of them.
Steady supply of midi-chlorians, or trying to raise another apprentice, so whether it's Snoke or the Emperor.
Right.
I mean, we know that they're out in the, I don't think they're in wild space, but they're definitely like out in the outer reaches. So they're not in the inner core of planets. So
yeah, but this Pershing guy's definitely tied to the cloning facility, right? He's got the Kaminoan symbol on his outfit. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
I mean, this is episode 3, so we have 5 more episodes left in the season. So I feel like they're on pace to do a storyline like that. Like I feel like they're planting seeds, but they can't have like a slow burn because they're already like a third through the season. So they need to set up things like cloners and why they're taking the baby and all this stuff, extracting its essence or whatever they're doing. So it's nice that it's only 8 episodes and we don't have to sit there and like drag out any sort of story. It's like, here we go. We know where we're starting and where we're ending. It's 8 episodes and this is where we're going to plant the seeds. And
even if they are planting some seeds for season 2 and opening up this world to be even larger, like I'm fine with that. Like,
yeah, I kind of hope that like season 1 is like the Baby Yoda bounty, and then season 2 is like some different job. Like I would like them to be a little more self-contained.
Yeah. No,
almost so they're like 2 4-hour-long movies or something.
No, I'm with you on that. I actually kind of had wondered or thought, like, is this just the Baby Yoda season? And at the end, Baby Yoda goes back to its parents or whatever. And
yeah. You know what's funny is the thing I liked about this episode, it made me like episode 2 more. I didn't really have a problem with episode 2. It's just not a lot happened. But that episode created a baby bonding time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I noticed that in this one, so enough time has passed and he already protected this dude, the baby, through 3 trials essentially, between the Mudhorn, the Jawas, I guess the Jawas, and then the Trandoshans.
Oh yes.
So it's like it's kind of bonding time, and so it was kind of nice on this episode where he doesn't just go straight back to the planet to give up the asset. By the time he gives it, you're like, oh no, he's already protected this baby from too much, that there's this bond now. So even though that episode didn't have a lot of story elements in it, it was definitely cool that it showed that there was a bonding time. So by the time we got to this episode, which was like chock full of like world building shit, it's like, okay, we now I mean, the audience was already on board with Baby Yoda being protected at all costs, but the second episode was just to make sure that we all made sure that the baby should be protected at all costs.
I wanted to mention this because I've noticed this with other TV shows, whether you've watched The Walking Dead or even Grey's Anatomy or just any TV show does this thing where they take kids and they put them in mortal peril, and it does this thing whether you have kids or not, where you're like, oh, don't and it like makes you hold your breath. The Mandalorian has done that, except with the cutest fucking thing that Star Wars has ever created.
You know what's funny about those other shows is like, especially with like Lost, where it's serialized, and you know each episode's essentially one day, you know, on the island. Is when it came for them to go from season 1 to season 2, they had to do something about their kid actor.
Oh, right.
Who's gonna grow like, you know, 9 months over the course of one story day. What's great about this show, if we do decide to have Baby Yoda come back in season 2, he won't age. So you can keep the continuity of a Baby Yoda without having to deal with an actor who's going to age, you know, months within the span of a day.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So that's good.
Yeah.
I liked the sort of bookends where the baby takes the ball off of the knob in the ship and treats it like a toy.
He's about to eat it.
Yeah, he is. I don't think he'd swallow it.
I don't think so either, but I'm glad that you mentioned this. Yeah.
I like that the Mandalorian picks him up by the scruff and says, "That's not a toy," and puts him back in his egg. And then at the end of the episode, the Mandalorian unscrews it himself and then hands it to him. And so it's like a cool and
the pivotal moment. That moment where, I mean, the first time I'm watching this, and you think, oh, he is really gonna go. Like maybe we won't see this payoff in this episode. And then he reaches for it, and it's like, like it just, I just love how that played out. Like just psychologically, like he reaches for it, it's not there, and he has this mask. He's expressionless, and yet we, the audience, are like projecting onto him exactly what we're feeling. And so, yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if, as an actor, that's easy or hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got subtle movements. Right.
Yeah.
But is it the direction? Is it the script? What is going on that makes us fully understand what's going on in the Mandalorian's head? When his face is completely covered, like it's because it's all sudden movements. It's all sudden head nods, and I can't imagine. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's hard for an actor or easy for an actor. But it's effective in the show, and it's working perfectly.
Yeah, and it's not just the music, because I was like, well, you know, maybe it's, but no, I mean, and I've really enjoyed the score and the music. It's different, but yet the
scene with the armor, when he first goes into the armor and he opens up the ice cream maker.
Yeah.
The music there, it's strings, and it's the first time that I feel Star Wars is referenced as far as musically.
Okay.
And the strings in that remind me of when Obi-Wan is sneaking around the Death Star.
Oh yeah, okay.
In Star Wars. And it's the first time that I've been like, oh, it's a Williams reference. Like, there's no references to Williams at all. And he doesn't even get a credit in the show, because usually when it comes to like Solo or Rogue One, it says original themes by John Williams. There's none of that in this. There's literally no Star Wars in this. But just those string sounds just reminded me of that scene in episode 4. So if you get a chance, go back and listen to that. And then listen to episode 4. It's just like a kind of a one note, like long stretched note, but it reminded me of that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one piece of music that I'm probably most critical of is there, and it's been there since the first episode. Is there's kind of an adventure theme, you know, and it reminds me of like 70s and 80s TV shows, like bam, 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 and we're on to the next thing. Like it just has like this certain vibe to it, and it's fine. Like, I love this show. I freaking adore it. So I really, whatever the musician wants to do, the composer wants to do, is fine by me. I love the Mandalorian
one of the things
it's just that one part that I get a little like, well, but
But the thing is, if I think of this as a period piece, which takes place after Return of the Jedi, 5 years, I believe, after Return of the Jedi,
yes.
which would put us in space 1987.
Sure.
So I kind of feel like the music reflects that time period. Like if John Williams used like full sweeping orchestras with choruses or with a choir in the prequels, which would be set around like, let's say, the 40s. And in the 70s you have just the regular orchestra, a little bit use of electronics and stuff in Empire, but I feel like this would be 1987.
Well,
it takes place in space 1987, so
I would take Lopty Neck over Jedi Rocks any day. So
yeah for sure. I listened to a podcast called Bizarre Albums, and on their Patreon they did bizarre singles. Tony Thaxton, who's been a guest on this show, he said that I just found out that the guy who wrote Lopty Neck was John Williams' son.
Oh, okay.
Who was also in Toto.
That's right.
Who also sang the adult Simba parts in the original Lion King, and also sang sang the theme to the Gummy Bears.
Okay, wow.
I just found all that out, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's not up to like his dad's levels of success, but it's there. It's kind of cool.
I do remember the Toto John Williams connection at some point, because I remember researching Lopty Neck at some point, and coming across that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a little forgotten nugget, because we no longer get that. We just get the Jedi Rocks, which Jedi sucks. So I was about to finish your sentence.
I don't really have many more notes. I do have one more on this episode, and it's one of the last shots of the show. Do you have anything else
I just wanted to
mention about this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get your thoughts on what a Campto of spice is versus a Campto of Beskar. Because if we're saying a Campto is like a ton or a pound or whatever unit of measurement, that's a lot of spice. Like grief mentions to him about getting some spice and a Campto of spice, and I'm like, okay, this word has been thrown around twice now, and I'm trying to understand the Star Wars.
Maybe it's a usual. It must be a unit of weight.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, the Beskar weighs a lot, and you're getting a whole bunch of that. Like, I don't know. It just, I know it's a minor thing. The Iron Man salute.
That's what I was going to bring up. But
all right.
But is it? Have we seen anybody salute like that in Star Wars?
No, I don't.
Even in military or anything?
I can't think of any.
Either can I.
I mean, maybe in one of the Rebels episodes where you get more Imperial military stuff occurring.
Right.
But I also feel like the Mandalorian would have their own separate salute, perhaps. In my own rewriting of this episode, I kind of thought, because that Mandalorian was giving him shit, I kind of imagined that his salute was actually a big FU. Like,
okay.
Like, it's not
it means something different there.
Does.
Right. You're right.
It's not a thing of nicety.
Endearment.
Yeah.
It's like, you made us all come out of hiding, you asshole. I'm just making sure you get out of here. And so don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's why he's like,
I like that.
Yeah. So
I like that. I did have one more question to bring up, but I think I'm going to bring it up on your show.
Okay.
Which is the Owen and Beru BBQ, which you can hear on the Jay and Jack Network. And I'm looking forward to talking again with you about this episode, and talking to Chris and Nick, who are a couple of negative Nancys. And I want to lay into them. I mean, we're getting 2 months of Star Wars stories, and in the middle of it, we're getting a whole nother movie. with Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, and R2 and 3PO and all those guys, and it's like, gosh, just be happy about Star Wars, would you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally.
Would it kill you to be happy?
Enjoy the ride, because it's not going to last long. So
only a couple months. Who knows what's happening next? I don't know when Mandalorian 2's coming out, or if Obi-Wan's even started. Which I'm excited for Obi-Wan now, because the director of this episode,
yes,
Deborah Chow, is in charge of that Obi-Wan series. And like I said, this was the best episode I think so far, which is a pretty high bar to hit.
I would say so.
When the last 2 episodes have been phenomenal. Yeah, no complaints. I have one complaint.
Okay.
Is that Baby Yoda sounds like stock baby sounds.
Oh, sure.
But that doesn't matter.
Hey,
we still love Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and it's hard to be upset with Baby Yoda when, to me, this episode can boil down to one Baby Yoda expression. It's when...
Oh, no, the sad one?
No.
Oh.
It's when those stormtroopers come out and Baby Yoda gets mad. I love it. I freaking love it. As soon as those stormtroopers come out, it's for like a second. You see his little eyes go like, And he's mad. Like, I love it. I just, the subtlety, the execution. Great stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of great expressions when he gets the ball taken away from him at the beginning.
Oh, yes.
And he just makes that sad face, and you're like, oh, just give him the fucking ball, dude. And then later he does. And all is well. Oh, and then so in the action stuff,
yes,
which we didn't talk too much about, but he fires off the his flamethrower.
Yes. Yeah.
And they cut to a shot of him holding Baby Yoda up against his chest, and Baby Yoda's eyes just kind of like slowly glaze over and close as the warmth hits his back. And it's like just this little moment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this show is so awesome. And it's funny because a lot of fanboys are like, this is the best Star Wars since the original trilogy, and I'm like, but there's also no women in it, so why don't you keep it down, guys?
We also got in that moment a stormtrooper screaming because they are on fire.
Right.
It's so awesome.
And a stormtrooper got impaled by the dart.
Yeah.
As he pulled them back, he shoved the dart all the way through.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll gush on this episode some more on the barbecue. And
yeah, and then I want to thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I love. I mean, it's been a long time since I've done a weekly podcast, so it's a little. For me, I'm kind of getting real anxious about it, but it is Patreon, so I'm like, I don't have to stick to a specific timeline, but I'm really trying to get them out on Tuesday. So the fact that we've made it through another Monday, and I'm going to edit this and post it, it's going to be awesome, because I don't think I have a lot of editing to do on this episode. It's been real nice that this Mandalorian show has been so exciting that you don't really have to like pause or take breaks. You just kind of there's so much to talk about and discuss. And then speaking of the Patreon, I want to thank my supporters. You guys are awesome. I do want to mention we are at 31 people now. So for the longest time I had the sort of stretch goal thing for 30. So now I need to do a live Q&A. So I'll probably do that as soon as the Mandalorian is done. I'll do that live Q&A. And then that'll be up on the thing. But thanks to everyone who supports. And we'll chat next time. And then Matt, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you.
All right. McClunky.